So let's get started. Again, my name is Jessica, and I am going to be teaching the 1 hour yoga class for beginners. This is just a nice general full body flow, and I teach these every Monday night from 7 to 8. There's usually a different type of focus every single week. So this week is just going to be a nice basic flow. But before we get started, if you haven't already, please make sure that you like this video or give it a thumbs up if you like it, and make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already so that I can keep giving you guys free yoga classes. So I am able to offer these every single Monday night. The more subscribers I get to my channel, the easier it is for me to be able to offer you guys free classes, and the more subscribers I get, the more classes I will be able to put on the schedule. So to get started for class tonight, you are going to need 2 blocks. If you don't have yoga blocks, they can be foam, they can be cork, they can be wooden, whatever. But if you don't have that, you can just use 2 big sturdy books. However, I do recommend getting these. You will need a yoga strap tonight. And if you don't have a yoga strap, you can use a scarf or a belt or even a dog's leash, just anything that connects point A to point B. And also something you don't need, but something that's very, very helpful to pretty much all beginners to yoga is a yoga wedge. So this is a foam yoga wedge. I will put a link for this in the description so that you can purchase one of these on Amazon if you would like one. I think it's like $9.99 or $14.99. I can't remember, but this will help your wrists. This will take a lot of the bend out of the wrist and take a lot of pressure out of the hands when you're using this. So I will show you how to use this as well. Like I said, you don't need one of these, but it certainly helps, especially if you are a beginner to yoga practice. And again, I'm going to put links to all of these. You can buy your own on Amazon in the description. So all you have to do is click on those links. I really appreciate if you purchase from those links. I get credit if you purchase from there, and it doesn't cost you anything more or anything like that. It just helps me. So I really appreciate for all of my subscribers to help me out in that way. And that way I can keep offering you guys some really awesome free content. So anyway, let's get started. Oh, you're also going to need a pillow. So make sure you grab all those things, and then we will get started. So we're going to begin class today by just sitting in easy pose. Now, easy pose is cross-legged. I'm going to take this off so you can see what I'm doing. So when you're in easy pose, it's just a cross-legged position, but this is often hard for a lot of people. You sometimes will feel like, your knees are coming up, or you can't sit. It's very uncomfortable. So you can sit on blocks, or you can sit on a pillow. This is going to help just to raise the hips and just make it a little bit easier for you to sit. So the only thing that I am concerned about here in this pose is that your spine is straight. That's the most important part of your seated yoga poses, is to have a straight spine so that your hips are healthy and your spine is healthy. If we're sitting like this puts a lot of pressure on the back, the lower spine in particular, and can cause a lot of problems down the line. So you want to be really careful that you are not rounding your back here, and sit up as much as you need. Now, if it still isn't comfortable, even if you're sitting on a pillow or a block, sit up against a wall, because this is going to just give you the support that you need. So find whatever works for you, and then we're just going to sit and focus on our breathing. So I'd like for you to close your eyes and just breathe in and out through the nose. And just start to focus on feeling everything in the present moment, feeling the air touching your skin, feeling the breath moving in and out of your nose, feeling the ground beneath you. Just taking note of what feels good, what doesn't feel good, what you want to give some extra attention to tonight. So sitting here, just allow your shoulders to rest naturally down. If you feel like you're slouching forward, bring your shoulders back. Good. And then we're going to just take our arms down to our sides, but out a little bit wider. And you're going to take your left hand, bring it up and over your head, just bringing it to the right side of your head, gently letting your head drop over to the left. So keep stretching with your right arm to feel a nice big stretch through the side of the neck. If it's too much pressure with your hand on your head, just take your hand down. Breathing in and out of your nose the entire time. Eyes can be opened or closed. So in yoga, what we're looking at is actually called our drishti. That's our focal point. That's where our focus and attention goes. So if we're looking out in front of us, that's good. We're looking at something, we're focusing. When we have our eyes closed, that brings your drishti inward. So you're focusing inward. So it's always a good idea to do that. Always a little bit more of a layer onto your practice. Good. Now we're going to take the left hand and just place it on the side of the head and just gently bring it back up to center. Take that left hand down to the ground, and then you're going to take the right hand to the left ear and just bring the head over to the right. Let this left shoulder just drop and reach. And breathe in and out through the nose. Now in yoga, we're always breathing, our basic breath, it's called ujjayi breath. It means victorious breath. And we breathe in and out through the nose with a slight constriction of the throat muscles to warm the body from the inside out. So it'll sound a little strange at first, but I assure you that is the breath that we use. Good. Take the hand to the right ear and just bring the head back up to center. Nice. We'll inhale the arms up overhead and then exhale, twist to the left. So you're going to take your right hand to the outside of your left knee and look over your left shoulder. The left hand can come to the ground behind you, but if you feel like you're really leaning back, take a block or one of your books and place it underneath of your hand behind you. Get yourself comfortable and just kind of feel the proper alignment for the pose. And you can continue the twist all the way up through the crown of the head as you look over your left shoulder. So this twist begins at your navel. We keep the hips still, but we rotate all the way up to the crown of the head, even twisting with the eyes, looking over the shoulder. So in my classes, I do really explain every single pose, and I try to make sure that every pose is done with proper alignment. Come back through center, arms reaching up. And then we exhale and twist now to the right, taking your left hand to the outside of the right knee and bring your right hand behind you, sitting up nice and tall. Now, again, you don't have to have a big, huge twist here, and I don't want you to feel like you're leaning back. I want you to place something underneath of your back hand if you feel like you have to lean back. So we'll look over the right shoulder. So as I was saying, the yoga poses are very precise, and that's why I teach with a focus toward alignment, because each pose, if done correctly, is healing. But each pose, if done incorrectly, misaligned, is actually going to cause more harm than good to the body. And a lot of us are just practicing, unbeknownst to ourselves, that we are doing more harm than good by trying to, overdo a pose while we're misaligned or not understanding the proper technique and alignment of the pose. So I really just make sure that everybody is nice and safe in their yoga poses. And come back through center. Arms are going to reach up toward the sky. And then as you exhale, we're going to bring your hands down to the ground and come onto our hands and knees for a tabletop. Now, I am going to show you with the yoga wedge, and I'm going to show you without the yoga wedge. So a lot of us new practitioners have wrist pain. It's something that's absolutely normal because our bodies are not used to having all of the all of the pressure on our hands. So if you are having wrist pain, take a yoga wedge and place your fingers on the wedge and then place your thumbs behind the wedge so you don't have your wrist pressing into it. Now, you can also just take your full hand, all 5 fingers on each hand, and just place them on the front part of the wedge. But you want to have it so that the skinny part is facing away from you. And this is going to help just take a lot of the bend out of the wrist. So that really helps with wrist pain. But for now, we're going to just start with our fingers spread out wide, and you're going to press into the index finger knuckle, the thumb knuckle, and all of the fingertips. So you want to be light on the wrists and rotate the elbow creases forward. Pull the belly in, and we have a nice flat back here. Knees are hip width distance apart. As you inhale, we're going to lift the tailbone, lift the head, the crown of the head up towards the sky, and we're arching our back, and this is cow pose. You can see just a sway back like a cow. And as you round the spine, tuck the tailbone, tuck the chin to the chest, looking down. This is our cat pose. So it's like an angry Halloween cat. Inhale, tailbone lifts up, head lifts up for cow. Exhale, round the spine, tuck the chin to the chest for cat. So we're going to move back and forth here a few times, just articulating through the spine. This just wakes up the body, front and back. Keep breathing that Ujjayi breath in and out through the nose. So we breathe that breath not only to focus our awareness on the present, but it also is a gauge to tell us if we are too deep into a pose, if it's too intense and we're causing harm to ourselves. If that breath begins to become short or staggered, then that means back off of the pose a little bit and just come out to the last point where you were, that you could breathe nice, deep, long breaths. Come back to center, and I'm going to have you take your right toes and bring them back out behind you, toes to the ground. And we're going to press back into the heel and then pull forward. Press back into the heel and then pull forward. One more time. Good. And then I want you to take this bottom foot, kick it out to the side, drop onto the inner edge of that back foot, and reach your right arm up toward the sky for a modified side plank. So give this right hand a little rest here. And then as you exhale, bring that hand back down, and we're going to bring the right knee back down as well. Take the left leg out behind you, and we'll do the same thing here. You're going to press back, pull forward, press back, pull forward. 2 more times. Good. Come back to center. Take this bottom leg, kick it out to the side, drop onto the inner edge of that back foot, and lift your left arm up toward the sky, coming into a modified side plank. A lot of work on the hands, right? So as this hand is off the ground, give it a little rotation, little circle, maybe open and close it a couple times and just let it relax. Great. Exhale, bring it back down to the ground, knees onto the ground, and we're going to take our knees out pretty wide and bring the big toes together, sitting back onto our heels. We'll come into child's pose. Now, if this is not comfortable, for a lot of people, you're going to take your pillow and you're going to place it underneath of your butt. So when you come down into your child's pose, your knees aren't bent quite so much. Now you can also take your blocks or your books and put them underneath of your chest here, underneath of your belly, underneath of your head, just so that you have some support here. Every single pose has lots of different modifications, lots of props that you can use, and lots of ways that you can support yourself in the pose. Yoga is supposed to be healing. It's supposed to feel good. So sometimes we don't know the different ways that we can do a pose because nobody tells us. So finding out those different techniques can really make your practice so much more enjoyable and so much more efficient and safe. So child's pose can be done with your arms out in front. It can also be done with your arms behind, shoulders dropping down to the ground. Whatever feels good and comfortable to you. Maybe you want to make a fist here and release, and maybe wiggle the fingers because our hands were on the ground for a while. You can do that. Good. And then we're going to come back up to our hands and knees. Now, and I didn't say it before, but if you need padding underneath of your knees, go ahead and do that. You can put a pillow under there, you can put a towel under there, and you can also fold up your mat so that it cushions your knees underneath. So we're going to place our hands on the ground, tuck your toes under, and I want you to press your knees up off the ground and back as you come into downward facing dog. Now, downward facing dog, all I care about here is that you are one straight line from your hands all the way up to your tailbone. So if you feel like you are rounding your back here so that you can get your legs straight, doesn't matter if your legs are straight. When your butt is sticking up toward the ceiling, your hands are pressing forward, you are going to create length in your spine. You're going to create stretching in your spine and stretching in your hamstrings. Heels do not have to touch the ground. They don't have to be anywhere near the ground. Knees don't have to be straight. Now, if you are here and you can get this nice upside down V, if you've got flexible hamstrings and flexible spine and shoulders already, that's great. But again, you don't have to be here. And if this is too much for you, just come down onto your elbows, or you can even just come down onto your knees and elbows. It's a lot of pressure for your hands, so take it easy there. All right, and then we're going to look forward and start to walk your feet all the way up to the front of the mat, and we'll just come into a forward fold. And with our forward fold, we start with our knees bent. If the legs don't straighten easily with the hands on the ground, then you bend your knees and you stick your butt up toward the sky. I know it sounds weird, but that's what I want you to do. Belly on your thighs. And I want you to just grab opposite elbows. Feet are about hip width distance apart, which is about 2 fists width. So that's about the width of our hips, and that's where I want your feet to be. Good. And then we're just going to rotate side to side here, like we're drawing a semicircle with our head. So many of us cannot touch the floor with our hands, and that is okay. There is no prize down there. Nobody is going to fire you for not touching your toes. You're not going to, lose loved ones because you can't touch your toes. I don't think that, that's a thing on, dating apps or anything like that. But we do want to stretch our hamstrings, but we don't have to touch the floor. So if our hamstrings are tight, don't round your back here like this, trying to touch your toes. Bend your knees and stick your tailbone up. You never want to round your back when you're reaching toward the ground. Keep the back safe. All right, to come up, I'm going to have you walk your hands up your legs. Lift your head. We're coming up chin first. So I don't want you to roll up one vertebrae at a time. I want you to lift your head first. Come up, pull your belly in nice and tight, and come up with a very flat back. Bring your arms up overhead, palms together, and then bring your hands to your heart. Excellent. So this pose is just called Namaste. This is equal standing pose. So we're going to inhale, reach your arms up overhead. This is high mountain. And then exhale as you bring your hands. You're going to dive forward through heart center. Bend the knees. And then we're going to bring your hands to the ground and step back with your right foot. So you're going to take a nice big step back and drop that back knee to the ground. So take a moment to get here. And when you're here, it's okay if your knee is in front of the ankle here. It's okay if your hands are on the ground. I just want you to feel a stretch in the front of your right thigh. So all we're going to do is lift the head and then exhale. Lift off of that back knee and bring that foot forward again. Come into our forward fold. So since we're already down here, we're going to just step the left leg back. Coming into our low lunge on the left side, drop that back knee down to the ground. Lift the head Now you can have your hands on blocks here too if you want. That's just going to lift you up and make this pose a little bit easier. Feeling a stretch in the front of your left hip. That's all I want you to feel right now. Good. And lift the back knee, step the back foot forward, and come to forward fold. Nice. Inhale, bend the knees. I want you to really bend the knees, bring the feet together, sweep your arms forward and up. We're coming into chair pose. Now, I want you to look down, make sure that you can see your toes. If you can't, push your hips back in space. Sit down deep, and then exhale, bring your hands to your heart. Beautiful. Okay, now we're going to step back into our warrior one pose. So feet are going to be they're going to be hip width distance apart. Right foot is going to be on the right side of the mat. Imagine that there is a line cutting your mat from right to left. Right foot's going to be on the right side of that line. Left foot is going to be on the left side of that line. So you're going to step your left foot back about maybe 2 to 3 feet. Right toes are pointing forward. Your left toes are going to point out on a 45-degree angle as you bend into your right knee. So be careful that you're not bending this far. You want to have that knee stacked right over top of your ankle to keep your knee safe. Your hips are going to point forward. And you can start with your hands at your heart. Pull the belly in tight. If that's comfortable, maybe you can bring your arms up toward the sky. You keep your gaze, your drishti, forward. And this is warrior one. So just remember, warrior one, your hands are in one position. They're both up here. One place, your hands are up here. So just remember that. Good. Bring your hands to your heart. And then we're going to step the back foot forward. And we're going to do warrior two on the left. So left foot is on that left side of the mat. So imagine that line cutting your mat from right to left. Left foot's on the left side. Right foot is going to step back. You're going to take about 2 to 3 feet, step back, and then your right toes are pointed out on a 45-degree angle. You don't want your right toes to point out to the side of the mat or point directly forward. They're out on an angle because your hip is on an angle. So your hip, your knee, and your toes should all be facing the same direction all the time. So front knee is bent, hands at your heart, or arms reaching up toward the sky. Your arms are pointing in one direction for warrior one. You'll see why I'm saying that in just a minute. Then we bring our hands back to our heart and step the back foot forward. So we're going to stay in this warrior one kind of position for this next pose as well. So right foot is going to remain forward, and we're going to take a step back with our left foot again. So this time, bring your hands to your hips and step your back foot forward just a couple inches, maybe about 5 to 10 inches forward. Hips are going to be facing forward. So you don't want to have your hips facing out to the side. Facing forward, back toes are still pointing out on a 45-degree angle. So this front hip is actually, or this left hip is actually pointing out 45 degrees. But we're going to bring the hands to the hips, and then we're going to fold halfway. Good. So come back up. And then pin your arms to your sides. And I want your arms and your torso to stay locked together. So if you're rounding your back, your arms are coming forward of your torso. So I want your back to stay nice and straight. So if this front knee starts to bend, just stop and come back to the last place where it was that it wasn't bending. So you want to come forward, back straight. Now, if this happens, then just straighten the leg and come up to where you need it to be straight. So this is called triangle pose. Now this is called pyramid pose. I'm getting ahead of myself. In pyramid pose, we work to get our hands to the floor, but our hands can start here, they can start here, they can be here, here, or they can even be on blocks right on either side of your foot. But the front leg stays straight. You don't want to lock the knee out. You're just pulling the kneecap up towards your thigh, but the front leg stays straight. So if your hands can be here with the leg straight, that's fantastic. But if they need to be up here to keep the leg straight, that's where they need to be. So this is just learning how to do the pose. We have to teach the body how to open up. We have to create flexibility. We're not born with it. And we need to just allow ourselves to do the beginner modifications of the poses so that we can create the flexibility that we need. Good. And then we're going to come up, hands on our hips, step the back foot forward, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. Step your right foot back, and if you need to bring it forward a little bit, go ahead and bring it forward. Rotate the hips so that they're facing forward. And let's bring your hands to your sides and fold halfway, keeping your hands pinned to your sides. Okay, if your back is flat here, that's great. Take your hands to your thigh, start here, and then maybe to your shin, maybe to blocks, and then maybe to the floor. Eventually, so sometimes my hands don't even want to touch the floor here because my hamstrings get tight, and that's okay. So you don't want to push it, and you don't want to cheat your way out of it. So if you bend this front knee, you're actually getting less of a stretch. So you can do this over and over and over, and it won't make any difference. So you want to keep this leg straight, and don't come down as much if you don't need to. Back stays straight, and the legs stay straight. And that's your pyramid pose. I see lots of variations of this being done, of people trying to get their hands down to the ground, but it's absolutely not necessary for this pose. And breathe. Breathe your Ujjayi breath. Once you learn the foundations of the poses, then you can start having more fun with them and experimenting with different variations and, different combinations of them. But you want to learn the foundations first. All right, bring your hands to your hips, bend the front knee, and then come back up to stand. Great. Or bring the front foot forward. Shake the legs out if you need to. Give them a good shake because this is hard work. Okay. So now we're going to come into our warrior two pose. So warrior two pose, we're going to start with actually I'm going to start from this side. We're going to start with the right foot in the middle of the mat. The left foot, you're going to step back about 3 to 4 feet. So we have a little bit wider stance with warrior two than we did with warrior one. So you're going to step out pretty wide. As you bend this if you bend this right knee, the right knee is stacked right over top of that right ankle. And if you look down to the inside of that knee, you're going to just see your big toe. If you're seeing your whole foot, then you need to bring your knee inward a little bit. If you don't see your foot on the inside of the knee at all, then you need to bring the knee outward. Now, if there's an imaginary line on your mat, in the middle of your mat, both feet are going to be on that line. That's keeping your hips in the correct alignment. So now we take our arms out wide. And I see a lot of times this happening where you're really reaching forward or you're really reaching back. You want to make sure that the crown of your head is stacked right over top of your hips. So you're not leaning too far forward here. This really opens up the hip here. Making sure that your front knee isn't like this, because that's overbending the knee. So we want to make sure the knee is stacked right over top of the ankle. Now, if you start gripping with your front toes, that means that your knee is too far forward. You need to just bring it back. Eventually, you want this front thigh to be parallel to the ground. And your arms are out in 2 directions. Warrior two, arms are pointing in 2 directions. Remember, warrior one, your arms are pointing in 1 direction. Warrior two, your arms are pointing in 2 directions. And you're going to gaze out over your front middle finger. Breathe. Good. Straighten the leg. Bring your hands to your hips. And then we're just going to switch to the other side. So we're in our wide-legged pose here. And now we're going to turn so that the left toes are facing forward and your right toes are facing the side of the mat. So your right toes are turned out, back toes are turned out on a 90-degree angle. Front toes are facing forward. So we're going to bend into the front knee. Left knee bends 90 degrees. Now remember, don't bend like this. This is damaging to your knee. So you want to make sure that that knee is stacked right over top of the ankle as your arms come out wide and you look over top of your front middle finger. Try not to reach over here. Reach way back here. You want your head over top of your hips so that your upper body is in one straight line. Warrior two. And just breathe here. Now again, look down at your front toes. You should be able to just see your big toe on the inside of this knee. Good. Straighten the leg, bring the hands to your hips. Whew. Let's just come up to stand because that is a really intense pose. So give yourselves a break. All right. Lots of layers to every single pose. So some poses, you're working on balance, you're working on flexibility, you're working on strength. So there's a lot going on in those poses. Okay. Okay, so let's come back into this wide-legged position that we were in before. Now, if you have sciatica, for whatever reason, if you've got pinched nerve or a ruptured disc or herniated disc or spinal stenosis or whatever it is, and you've got sciatic issues, you want to turn your toes out on a 45-degree angle. You do not want to have your toes pigeon-toed in here. You want to have them out just a little bit wider. Good. Hands are going to go on your hips. Now, we're going to fold forward. So if you know that your hands aren't going to touch the floor here and you are going to round your back, just take your blocks or your books, whatever you have here, and place them right here. Now, you may not even make it down here, and that's okay too. Bend your knees if you need to, but stick your butt out to the side. So I'm going to show you from the side what this looks like. So you're going to stick your butt out. You do not want to round your back here like this. This is going to cause problems to your spine. So back goes flat. And you're going to bend your knees, put your hands on blocks. Yeah. And then this is your forward fold. Now, if you feel like you've got flexible hamstrings and you can come down into a forward fold, then just come on down with a flat back. This is one of my favorite poses. I could stay here all day, but I know it's excruciating for a lot of people, so I'm not going to keep you guys here all day. But if I had my choice, I would stay here. I like this pose. Breathing our Ujjayi breath in and out of the nose. And then we're going to start to press down into the hands, bend the knees if they're not already, and then come on up to stand. Great. Bring your feet together. Give them a little shaky shake. Great job. All right. So let's take our blocks, and we're going to put one on either side of the long side of our mat. And we're going to come back into this wide-legged position. So we're going to come back into our warrior two pose with our left knee bent. So you bend into the left knee. Your right toes are pointing out to the side of the mat. So I'll show you what that looks like. Right toes are pointing out to the side of the mat. Good. And now we're going to straighten this front leg. So we're coming into what's called triangle pose. So bring your hands to your hips and press your hips back like you're trying to push them to the wall behind you. Now imagine that you're pressed against a wall that's behind you and you want everything pressed up against this wall. The top arm, the bottom arm, the legs, the back, everything is pressed up against that wall. Now also too, I want you to keep in mind your spine is straight here. So I don't want your spine to curve down like this. I want your spine to be straight. So as you are leaning forward, feel like you're stretching your spine really, really straight. So it's in a straight line. So it's not rounded like this. So you're going to take your left hand to your left leg and your right arm up toward the sky. So pull these muscles tight here. So it's almost like you're doing an oblique crunch here. And again, remember that you're pressing into that imaginary wall that's behind you. So if I was to look at you from the front, actually, I'll show you guys what it looks like look at you from the side. This is what it would look like from the side. Everything is in one straight line. So I see this sometimes, and I see this sometimes. Everything needs to be straight. So if it means you have to come up a little bit here, that's okay. Come way up. Come up as high as you need to. For a lot of us, this may be all that you're getting, and that's fine. I want you to be here. As long as this front leg is straight That's all that you need. You're going to feel it in your front hamstrings. Good. And your front hip. Come on back up, and we're going to do the other side. So you're going to turn your left toes to face forward, and your right toes are going to face out to the side. Now, I didn't even do it on the other side, but I'll show you how to use your blocks with this pose. You're going to kick your hips out to the side. So that's the first step with this pose. Always kick the hips out to the side. And then you're going to start by taking your bottom hand and bringing it down as far as you can go until this bottom leg needs to start to bend, or you start to round down like this. So you come back to the last place you were, where that front leg was straight. Now, if you need your block here, place your block here. And you're going to bring your top arm up toward the sky. And this is triangle pose. You can look up, but if it hurts your neck, look to the side or even look down. So if it feels good, you can bring your hand to the ground, but this is not necessary. And then we're going to come back up. Nice. Good job. Shake your legs out. And then we're going to come down onto the ground. Actually, no, I lied. We're not coming down onto the ground because we haven't done our balancing poses yet. We're going to do 2 balance poses. First one that we're going to do is tree pose. So tree pose, we're going to start with our feet next to each other. Our arms are going to be down by our sides. And let's actually take our hands to our hips. And we're going to turn our left toes out to the side. Root down into this right leg. Like feel like you're growing roots into the ground with this right leg. And you're going to take your left heel and place it on the inner right ankle so that you can really let this left knee come out wide. Now, if this is comfortable and you want to bring this foot to the inner calf below the knee, bring it to the calf below the knee. If you feel comfortable bringing this foot up here, bring it up here above the knee. The only place you don't want this foot is on the knee. So hands can be here at your heart, or they can reach up toward the sky. Now you want to keep your eyes open. Closing your eyes is going to make it harder. So you want to look at something very small, way out in front of you, that is unmoving. Your drishti is key to keeping yourself balancing in this pose. You always want to make sure that you're focusing on something unmoving in front of you. Great. Bring your hands down and lower the foot. Now, if it's really hard to balance in that pose, just come back to a less intense modification of the pose. So if you feel like you're here and it's hard to balance, just bring your foot down here. If you feel like you're here and it's hard to balance, just bring your foot down here. You want to build up from the bottom. You don't want to start at the top and then fall and then keep starting at the top and then falling every single time. You want to start from the bottom and then build that awareness and that balance and that strength. Okay, so we're rooting down now into the left foot, and you're going to start with your foot at the ankle. If that feels good, bring the foot to the calf. If that feels good, bring the foot up to the inner thigh. Hands can be here or here. Find your focus, your drishti, and breathe in and out through your nose. Breathing our ujjayi breath. Balance is hard. It is not something easy that we're all born with. We have to build it. And I know for myself, balance is the most difficult aspect of my physical practice. Good. Bring your hands down, and then we're going to shake the legs out. Great job. Okay, one more balance pose. This is called Warrior 3. So we did Warrior 1, Warrior 2, and now we're doing Warrior 3. So Warrior 3, we're going to start with our feet hip width distance apart, and You want to have your blocks in case you need them, or your books. Now, if you're using books, fan them out a little bit because you're going to have them up so that they're tall so they don't fall over. Now, you can also use a chair for this if you want to balance on a chair. It'll keep you up a little bit higher. Okay, so here you're going to, well, let's start with our hands at our hips. And you're going to keep your right leg straight, and you're going to bring your left leg out behind you as you lift your chest up and look forward. Hands can be here, they can be here, or they can be here. Ooh, whatever is most comfortable and easiest for you. You are rotating this back hip down, the top hip down. So you don't want it turned out to the side. You want it down, and then you're looking forward. Reach, reach, reach through that back leg. So try not to just let that leg be loosey-goosey. Engage all of the muscles and press it out like there's a button behind you and you're trying to press it with your toes. And then release. Woo, shake it out. That'll build some strength in your legs. Okay, we're going to do the other side now. So we're rooting down this time into the left foot, and you're going to start with your hands at your heart, or on your chair, or on your blocks. You're going to reach that right leg back really, really long. If you want your hands to be on your blocks, bring them to your blocks. But reach back through the toes like you're pressing a button that's back there. Pull the belly in tight and look ahead of you. So remember, hands can be here, the blocks, or here. Good. And then come on down. Woo, shake it out. That was really good. Okay, now we'll move the blocks out to the side, and then we're just going to come down onto the ground. Coming into a seat again. If you need to sit on your block or your pillow, go ahead and do that. And then we're just going to bring the soles of the feet together. All right, so this is bound angle pose. In fact, if you need to sit up against a wall, sit up against a wall. This is a really nice option for this pose. It feels really, really good, and it just allows you to focus on not, using your core to keep you upright, but it just allows you to focus on the flexibility of the hips. Like I said, every yoga pose has different aspects, flexibility, strength, focus, balance. So sometimes we choose to just work on one aspect of a pose, and for this, we're just going to work on flexibility of the hips. Good. Now, if this is comfortable, stay here. If you want, and you can keep your back straight here, you're going to bring the thumbs to the insides of the feet. Peel the feet open like you're opening up the pages of a book. Elbows hug into the sides, and then you're going to start to fold forward, but you want to keep your back straight. So if you're rounding your back like this, then come back up. Back is nice and straight. And then we'll come back up. Then we're going to come into our forward fold. Paschimottanasana. That's a big word. So forward fold, you're going to want your strap nearby. And if you can't touch your toes, I don't want you to round your back like this to touch your toes. There's lots of things that you can do to make this pose easier for you and healthier for your spine. Because if you're rounding your back here, this is putting lots of pounds of pressure on each of your vertebrae, causing damage to the discs in between your vertebrae. So the first thing that you can do is to sit on a block. This elevating your hips is going to keep your spine more in the correct alignment. So you can elevate your hips and use your strap. By lassoing your strap around your feet, you're going to flex your feet. Arms are nice and straight, back is nice and straight, and then you're going to walk your hands toward your feet. You're not going to pull your arms back like this. Your arms are going to stretch forward. Your spine is really, really long, and then you're looking out past your toes. Now, if you don't need your strap, if you don't need your block, it's going to look like this. But for tonight, I'm going to use my strap and just show you with the strap. And then we start to come on up. Good. And lie down on your back. Hug your knees into your chest. Give them a good squeeze. And then we're just going to place the soles of the feet on the floor. We're going to come up into a bridge pose. So you're going to start with your arms on the ground, palms facing down. And you're going to press your hips up off of the ground. Knees are hip width apart. You want your legs parallel to one another. So you don't want your knees too far in. You also don't want your feet out wider than your hips. So shins are parallel to one another. Squeeze your shoulder blades underneath of you and press the hips off of the ground. Pull the belly in nice and tight and keep the gaze straight up toward the sky. Now you want enough room in between your chin and your chest, like you're holding an apple there. So you don't want to tuck your chin to your chest. And just breathe and come on down. That's a really good glute workout. Hug your knees back into your chest. Excellent. Then we're going to come into our happy baby pose. So happy baby pose, you're going to bend your knees and reach up and grab the outer edges of your feet. Now, if you can only do one side at a time, take the other leg and just bring it down to the ground and just hold one leg. And maybe just take a few breaths doing this. You can even rock side to side and then switch legs when you've had enough on one side. Good. But if you can grab both, grabbing the outer edges of the feet and just pulling the knees toward the floor. Close your eyes here and just relax. It's called happy baby for a reason because it's supposed to feel good, and it's just like how happy little babies play with their feet. You never see grown-ups doing anything happy like this. That's why there's no happy grown-up pose or happy teenager pose. Definitely no happy teenager pose. Nice. Bring your knees back into your chest. And then we're going to come into a reclined twist. So I'm going to do this a little bit diagonal here. Your arms are going to come out to a T, and you're just going to bring your knees over to the right. Now, your left shoulder blade, sorry, let me mirror you guys. Your left shoulder blade may not touch the ground here, and that's okay. So I want your knees to be stacked, and I want your hips to be stacked. So if this left shoulder blade is just kind of hanging out into space, take a block and place it underneath of your left arm. You're going to look out past your left shoulder unless you have any neck problems or issues that prevent you from twisting your neck. If that's the case, look out over your right shoulder. But I hear a lot of teachers say to keep your back shoulder blade on the ground here, but that's actually incorrect and causes a lot of problems because it causes your hips to come out of alignment. There's a whole thing that happens there. I'm not going to get into it, but yeah. We're twisting from our navel up, so we want to focus the twist in our upper part of our spine, not the lower part of the spine. Learning all of the yoga poses can kind of seem tedious and boring, but when you learn the poses, and your body just creates this muscle memory. Your body just defaults to stepping into a certain shape when you try to do a pose. And it becomes more fun, it becomes more effective. You really start to see changes in your body, flexibility, strength, focus. But you just have to learn the poses first. That's the hard part. Good. Let's come back up to center. And then we're going to just shift the hips over to the right a little bit. Drop the knees over to the left and bring your arms out to a T again. You're going to look out past your right arm. And again, knees and hips are stacked. So if this back arm does not touch the floor, the back shoulder blade does not touch the floor, just take a block and place it underneath of that back arm. Now, I know I am giving you guys a lot of information, so please, if you have any questions at all, make sure that you post it in the comments, and I will do my very best to get you the best answer that I can for your question. All of these yoga poses are very precise. The shape that they create is required for the alignment and for the energy to start to be able to access your body. So because our bodies are not all created the same shape or size or ability, we cannot create our bodies to fit the pose. We actually use props and modifications to make each yoga pose fit your specific body. So there's always a modification that will fit your specific needs. And let's come back to center. Hug your knees into your chest. One last time, maybe rock side to side and just give yourself a little spinal massage here. And we'll come into our final pose, Shavasana. So in Shavasana, we are just resting our entire body. So I'm going to actually put on my sweater. So Shavasana is meant to be comfortable, and you want to have stillness in this pose. So you want to find a position that gives you complete stillness. So whether you want to use a pillow or a blanket, put the pillow underneath of your knees or underneath of your head, you're just going to lie still. So take the first few breaths, the first few moments to just get yourself situated here and find your position that you need to be in. And just relax. Allow your eyes to close. I like to give 3 to 5 minutes for Shavasana at the end of each class. And now it is quiet, and I want you to bring your awareness inward. That's something that we call pratyahara, which means to withdraw the senses. And as we do this, we start to create that connection to the universal consciousness. And we just start to feel liberated and free and in harmony. So I'll give you a few moments in quiet, and don't worry, I haven't forgotten about you. The video hasn't stopped. I will take you out in just a few moments. So enjoy this peace and quiet. Begin to wiggle your fingers and toes. Start to bring life back into your body. Move your wrists and your ankles. And just find movement, whatever feels natural to you. When you're ready, bring your knees into your chest and then roll over onto your right side into a fetal pose. We always come from Shavasana at the end of class into fetal pose. Shavasana represents death and fetal pose represents birth. And so we acknowledge that things have to die off and recede and leave us so that new things can happen, so that we can start new, we can start fresh and be reborn each time we end our practice on the mat. Begin our practice into life. Take your left hand, top hand, place it on the ground, and push yourself up to a comfortable seated position. Whatever that is to you, whether you need to sit on your pillow or sit on blocks or sit against a wall. And then I invite you to bring your hands together in front of your heart and bow your head in a gesture to remind us of the connection between mind and body. Please go from here tonight with peace and inner strength. I honor the place in you where the entire universe resides. I honor the place in you of love, of light, of peace, of truth. When you are in that place in you and I am in that place in me, we are one. Namaste. Thank you for sharing your practice with me tonight. All right, well, thank you everybody for joining. And please make sure, if you haven't already, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and post some comments in the comment section. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you need. Let me know what questions you have. I am super happy to talk about this kind of stuff anytime you need it and answer any questions. And please make sure that you join me next Monday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the next free live YouTube yoga class. So I really appreciate you guys being here. Make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Thank you.